Come be a part of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics with your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. Hear the voices of liberty speaking all across America. Doc Holliday provides thought-provoking interviews and commentary about the issues and actions that are afflicting this country and what we need to do to get America back on track. Get fired up, get inspired, get on board with Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right now.
And here we go.
And yes, you heard it. That's the sound of rock cracking. Once again, you've got Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. I'm your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. You're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net. And when I talk about the sound of rock cracking, it could be the supply chain crashing down. That's why Biden's supply chain, it's a train wreck now. It's Biden's supply chain train wreck. Try to say that 3 times fast. But listen, we are seeing our country descend into a state of not being able to get things done that America has not known. Newt Gingrich said we hadn't seen this since the Civil War, the way the government's going against the people. And we'll play a clip from him on the Laura Ingraham show in just a moment. And we got some clips about the supply chain. We got Janet Yellen on the CBS 60 Minutes. That's not a conservative talk show. It's not a conservative station by any means. And yet we got people in this administration thinking everything's hunky-dory. And the transportation director, Pete Buttigieg, has been on a vacation. And just, anyway, where are the grown-ups? When they said, oh, Trump's out, Trump's got beat, we're going to bring in a White House where we'll have some grown-ups. Oh, my goodness. If these are the grown-ups, please get rid of every one of them. Fire them all. And let's get into it. We'll play this clip from Newt Gingrich in just a minute. But before I do that, we haven't had a crypto corner. And let me just tell you, those of you who've kept up the cryptocurrency, some of you actually bought a little Bitcoin. I haven't told anybody to buy Bitcoin, not to buy. I'm saying learn how to do cryptocurrency. If you need to buy $50 or $20 of Bitcoin, learn how to do that. This is a new era, and we don't know all the cryptocurrencies out there. We don't know what they're going to be a month from now or 6 months from now, a year from now. I know former President Trump, he's always a little concerned. We don't need something to take over the American dollar as the world's reserve currency. But you know, right now there's a thought out there that China, of course, has banned all cryptocurrencies. They've banned Bitcoin. They've banned any Chinese citizen from owning this. And so why is China afraid of a Bitcoin? Why is it afraid of cryptocurrency? Because they can't control it. So therefore, America, when China bans something, America should say, what freedom will this bring us to be able to use cryptocurrencies? Right now, China was the leading miner of Bitcoin, for those who know what mining is for Bitcoin. But the United States now is taking over. It's becoming the biggest Bitcoin miner. And it's because China gave up its position as number one, because they don't want anything to do with cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin. It scares them to death because they want total control. And the United States is looking at what do we need to do, what policies. I think watching China totally ban all cryptocurrencies is making some people that weren't real happy about cryptocurrencies in America. They're starting to see, you know, if we have a lot of these cryptocurrencies, I say a lot, I'm talking about a handful, 5 to 10, that are pegged to the American dollar, is that a bad thing that they have to have dollars because these certain called stable coins are pegged to it? Think about that. even though cryptocurrencies may grow, the value of the dollar could be enhanced because so many around the world of these cryptocurrencies want to have a stable coin called a stable coin that stays ranked to the American dollar. That might even embed the American dollar even deeper into the world's economy as the world's reserve currency. Just a thought, just telling that a little bit off the subject before we get to supply chains, but that is something else to think about as everyone starts looking at policies, and as the Biden administration looks at taxing the heck out of, maybe we ought to support Bitcoin, maybe we ought to support cryptocurrencies like the United States Congress did with Republicans in control of the Congress. Bill Clinton was president when they said, let's protect the internet. Let's don't tax the internet. Let's don't put taxes on the internet and let it thrive and grow. I wish they could think about the same thing with cryptocurrencies, but that's probably too much to ask of this socialist government. And because talk about socialism, let's just play this clip from Laura Ingraham show when she had Newt Gingrich on, former Speaker of the House, last week. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I don't think that Democrats have really thought this through, have they? I mean, they thought these mandates, it was all going to work. They did some polling and they put the polls out there. People like the mandates. They like the mandates, Newt, until they can't get a police officer to show up or they can't get a nurse on a floor if they're in an ER. So then the mandates don't look so good, do they?
Well, look, I think it's deeper than the mandates. You have a system, the American system, which is falling apart. You have hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. And by the way, Joe Biden doesn't do anything to apply his fancy rules and his mandates to illegal immigrants. They don't get tested. They don't get vaccinated. We don't check on them for health reasons. So somehow American citizens can be punished by their own government, but people who show up here illegally get flown around the country, get shipped around the country, get taken care of. The taxpayers are funding all of the illegal immigrants who are not required to do any of this. But there's something deeper going on. They can't unload the ships. They can't find the trucks. They can't get the economy moving. They can't get children educated. Go down the list. Their system, this entire big government socialist system, is falling apart. And their answer, of course, is to use the power of the government against the American people. That's why you have the Attorney General trying to sic the FBI on parents who go to a school board meeting. I mean, we've never, not since the Civil War, have we seen this kind of intense anti-citizen behavior. And this is happening because the left knows they're a distinct minority. They know that the country is going to repudiate them, and they are desperate to enforce on you and me and everybody else their rules. And what's beginning to happen, as you just saw in Chicago, as we saw with Southwest Airlines, people are starting to figure out there are more of us than there are of these left-wing nuts. And I think you're going to see more and more resistance on every front, not just in terms of the mandates.
We're talking about the supply chain train wreck. So why are we talking about the mandates? Well, the government mandates coming out of the White House and Joe Biden, and they have no power to direct mandates because if they want to make a law, Congress has to make a law. And therefore, but these mandates, what they're pushing on private companies and encouraging private companies to make their own decisions to force all employees to have these coronavirus injections. Some people don't want to do it. There have been side effects, and that's not been promoted in the mainstream media, the different side effects. But the fact that you're telling people you have the vaccine or you will have no job. In some places you can't shop. You can't go to restaurants. And what is happening? There is a turning against these mandates. And the reason we have supply chain problems. We got cargo ships. These huge ships of all the cargo coming from Asia. And there's nobody to unload the ships because there's people being fired because they won't take the injection. There's people being fired because they won't take the injection that are truck drivers. We got military, the Navy, Army. Our military is firing soldiers. They're forcing them out of the military. Think about the experience. Think about being ready, war ready. What if we're called into action? God forbid that we have a war. But think of all the experienced military men and women who said, no, I am not going to take that jab. It has not been proven absolutely safe. We don't know the long-term effect. I'm not going to take it. And they're being forced out in the military. How long will it take to retrain these people? How many people will fill in the rows? Is there a shortage of recruits? I'd like to know. Wouldn't you? Think about our nation being prepared. And they're firing people right and left, not just the military. Look at airlines. We saw where Southwest canceled 1,000 flights last week. 1,000 flights were canceled, messing up people's business trips, messing up vacations, messing up people who want to travel. And why? Oh, they said it's FAA. Well, part of the FAA problem with air traffic controllers was they fired some because they didn't want to take the injection. There's pilots and airline helpers all up and down the airlines. Everything from the engineers, the mechanics, and if you don't take the injection, you're being fired. And that's delaying flights, not only pilots, but if you don't have a mechanic to sign off on things, then the plane can't fly. There's all kind of logistical nightmares that are going on, and it's because of who's in the White House. It's Biden's supply chain train wreck, and that's why grocery store shelves are being empty on some things. Not completely empty. The whole store's not empty, but we've never had this problem in America where we've had shelves that can't be filled, maybe for a week or two, but for months on end. We got a supply chain train wreck going on because the President of the United States has not got a clue how capitalism works. He's a socialist now. He's bought the hard left line, and he wants to push America into full-out socialism, and that's why we got a problem. That's why we were energy independent under Donald Trump, and now our president is begging OPEC. He's begging some of our some enemies of America, and he's begging them, bail us out, pump more oil, and get this price down. Oh my, why did the American people vote for this guy? You know, some of them voted more than once, it seems like. Well, we won't get into that, but go look at the Arizona results, and you can see where there's a lot of suspicious activity that went on in the voting, and they're finding it out now. But that's a time for another show. But let me just remind you, listen to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net. We're glad to have you. We're glad to have your friends and neighbors. Tell them about Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You know, you're going to hear things here that you won't hear anywhere else. And we appreciate you listening. And now I'm going to play this clip right here about our Secretary of Treasury, Miss Janet Yellen.
Are higher prices here to stay?
I believe it's transitory, but I don't mean to suggest that these pressures will disappear in the next month or two. This is an unprecedented shock to the global economy. It's led to a huge shift in demand away from services and toward goods. And it's created huge bottlenecks in supply chains. We have close to 100 ships that are docked outside the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach waiting to unload goods. And
as Secretary Yellen is speaking, can you say, would you be quiet and listen and look how Donald Trump ran the economy and then get back to we know what works? Can we just do that, Secretary of Treasury? And yet, and the other thing, we're talking about the ships docked off Los Angeles. Well, they had an oil spill, an oil